6 months after the fall of the hegemony, HFY found herself in a position she'd never expected, serving as an unofficial ambassador between the Kytherian Merchant Guild and the Human Free Fleet. The galaxy had changed dramatically since that day in the nebula, and change always brought opportunity for those wise enough to recognize it. Her ship, the Prosperity's Edge, had been upgraded with human technology that made her previous systems look primitive. The hyperdrive could now jump 3 times farther than before. The shields could deflect weapons that would have vaporized her old ship, and the cargo holds used dimensional compression to carry twice their original capacity. All gifts, Marcus had explained when the modifications were completed, from friends to friends. But HFY was a traitor to her core, and she knew that no gift came without expectations. The question was what humanity expected in return, and whether the price would be worth paying. Today's mission was taking her to a place that symbolized the new galactic order, New Haven, a space station built in the ruins of a former hegemony administrative center. It was one of dozens of such projects across what had once been enemy territory, joint ventures between humans and the species they'd helped liberate. Marcus sat in the co-pilot's chair, reviewing reports on his personal display. In the months since the hegemony's fall, he'd become something between a diplomat and a troubleshooter for the Free Fleet. His easy manner and genuine care for others made him surprisingly effective at negotiations. "Nervous?" he asked, noticing her scale patterns. "Concerned," HFY corrected. "The Vorthan Empire has been making threatening statements about human expansion. They see your people as a threat to the established order." "They're not wrong," Marcus admitted. "Humans do tend to disrupt established orders. We can't help it. It's what happens when you put us in a system that doesn't account for our existence." Through the viewport, New Haven came into view. The station was enormous, built around the skeletal remains of a hegemony fortress, but transformed into something entirely different. Where the original structure had been all harsh angles and intimidating weaponry, the new construction flowed like a living thing. Docking bays welcomed ships of every configuration, market districts buzzed with commerce, and residential areas were filled with gardens that brought life to the void. 47 species, Marcus said, reading from his display, all working together. 6 months ago, most of them were slaves. Now, they're partners in the largest free trade zone in the galaxy. And all under human protection, HFY observed. Protection, not control. There's a difference. The docking process was smooth and efficient. Human traffic controllers work alongside their alien counterparts, managing the complex flow of ships with an ease that spoke of careful planning and extensive practice. As they descended through the station's atmosphere shields, HFY saw the true scope of what had been accomplished. The market levels were a wonder of organized chaos. Former slaves who had never been allowed to own property were now operating their own businesses. Species that had been kept segregated by their hegemony masters were working side by side. Children of a dozen different races played together in spaces designed to accommodate their various needs. "How is this possible?" HFY asked as they walked through crowds that should have been fighting each other instead of trading peacefully. "Humans have a theory," Marcus explained, stopping to buy some kind of fruit from a vendor whose species she didn't recognize. "We believe that most conflicts come from scarcity and fear. Eliminate both, and cooperation becomes the logical choice." They were met at the commercial district center by Station Administrator Kemal, a middle-aged human woman with graying hair and the confident bearing of someone accustomed to solving impossible problems. Beside her stood Vrextar, a former hegemony slave whose species resembled a cross between a reptile and an insect. 6 months ago, Vrextar had been a laborer in a mining facility. Now he was the elected representative of the largest trader coalition on the station. "Captain HFY," Kemal said warmly. "Welcome to New Haven. I hope you're impressed by what we've built here." Impressed, yes. Also confused. The logistics alone should be impossible. Vrextar's translator conveyed what might have been amusement. Human logistics are efficient. They think in ways that make complex problems simple. They took a tour through the station's various levels, each more surprising than the last. Research facilities where former hegemony slaves worked alongside human scientists to develop new technologies. Training centers where species learned skills they'd never been allowed to practice. Cultural centers where different civilizations shared their arts and traditions. The key, Kemal explained as they walked through a hydroponics facility that fed half the station, is understanding that diversity is strength. Every species brings unique capabilities and perspectives. The hegemony wasted that potential by forcing conformity. And humans coordinate it all. Humans facilitate, Vrextar corrected. We govern ourselves through councils elected by our own people. Humans provide security, technical assistance, and mediation when conflict arise. In the residential sections, Zexhai saw families of mixed species, not just biologically, but in terms of adoption and chosen kinship bonds. Human children learning alien languages, alien children playing human games, elderly beings of various species sharing stories and wisdom. This isn't just a space station, she realized. It's a society. It's the future, Marcus said simply. If we can make it work. Their meeting was in the station's council chambers, a large circular room designed to accommodate representatives from species with vastly different physical requirements. The agenda was trade negotiations, but Zexhai suspected the real purpose was to gauge Kytherian intentions toward the new order. The discussion was complex and detailed, covering everything from shipping routes to currency exchanges to intellectual property rights. What impressed Zexhai was not just the thoroughness of the planning, but the evident care taken to ensure that smaller species weren't overwhelmed by larger ones. The human approach to economics is interesting, Vrextar observed during a break in negotiations. They seem to believe that everyone can profit if the system is designed correctly. Is that not true? Zexhai asked. The hegemony believed that profit was zero-sum. For one to gain, another must lose. Humans think that wealth can be created through cooperation and innovation. And you found this to be accurate? Vrextar gestured toward the viewport, where ships from dozens of species were loading and unloading cargo in perfect coordination. New Haven processes more trade in a day than most hegemony worlds handled in a year. Everyone involved makes profit. The mathematics speak for themselves. As the negotiations continued, Zexhai began to understand the elegant complexity of what humans were building. It wasn't just a trade network or a military alliance. It was a new model for civilization itself, one based on voluntary participation, mutual benefit, and respect for individual choice. But she also sensed the fragility of all. The system worked because humans made it work, providing security, mediation, and technical expertise that held everything together. What would happen if humanity decided to withdraw that support? The question was answered unexpectedly when alarms began sounding throughout the station. Marcus immediately activated his personal communicator while Kemal connected to the station's command center. What's happening? Zexhai asked. Vorthan battle fleet, Marcus reported grimly. 12 heavy cruisers, demanding that we surrender the station to Imperial authority. Through the chamber's main display, they could see the Vorthan ships taking up attack positions around New Haven. The familiar wedge-shaped hulls bristled with weapons, and their commanders were broadcasting threats on all frequencies. This is Admiral Korthvan of the Vorthan Empire, came the transmission. You have 30 minutes to evacuate all personnel from this illegal installation. After that time, we will commence bombardment. Kemal's response was calm, but firm. Admiral, this is Administrator Kemal of New Haven Station. We are a free port operating under